It certainly is fair to say that it's the most controversial issue. There are people who say that the subject of a nuclear plant in Carnsore is the most important decision that the Irish people will be asked to make in the next 10, 20 years. I was looking at some quotes, for example, during the week, and they vary from being told on the one hand that without nuclear power, Ireland, all of us in Ireland, will end up starving and freezing to death in the dark. And on the other hand, they say that with nuclear power, we'll endanger ourselves and the environment for longer than recorded history. And yet, nevertheless, the point is made that 80% of our energy is imported, and the recent oil crisis showed our vulnerability. When I say I'm not going to ask any questions, I'll amend that slightly. I'm going to ask 20 questions, but I'm going to do it very cleverly. I'm going to ask the same 10 questions of two different people. This gives you the impression that I'm actually thinking about what I'm doing. And I'll introduce those two people to you now to give you an idea of the different approaches and the different answers you're likely to get on this particular topic. The same 10 questions to two people. And we'll start with Dr. David Nolan here, who is from the Wexford Nuclear Safety Association. He is not the Dr. David Nolan of the Irish Times. And I'll ask them both to make their answers as pithy and short as they can. For example, Dr. David Nolan, how much do you estimate a nuclear plant in Ireland will cost?
For the 2,600 megawatt capacity, which the ESB have applied for planning permission to Wexford County Council, we estimate at the present rate, which is nearing £1 million per megawatt of installed capacity. This is then, it's approximately £2.5 billion.
That's for one?
for 4 reactors, which have been applied for.
4 reactors.
But there are massive capital overruns due to the fact that construction periods are taking a long time, which are adding hundreds of millions of pounds to the cost of reactors today for each reactor. Now, these are the accountable costs, but the unaccountable costs refer to long-term storage, decommissioning of the plant, medical facilities, and insurance, a whole range of things which have not been properly costed.
In your opinion, will it work and will it be economic?
If you're very lucky, it'll possibly work, but 25% of the world's reactors have failed to become economic. They haven't achieved their rated capacity factors.
And will it be economic?
No. Around the world today, nuclear power is no longer economic.
In broad terms, what are the risks involved?
The risks involved because associated with the reactor, you have radiation, and radiation causes cancer. Now, there are strict regulations regarding the amount of radiation that can escape from a nuclear power station. But there is now, around the world, a very considerable body of scientific opinion which thinks that no form of radiation at all can be added to the existing background radiation without further increasing the risks of cancer to people. In addition, there's the possibility of a major accident occurring, and there is the question of the plutonium, which is produced in the waste material which comes from the nuclear reactor after it has served its purpose. This will accumulate at a rate that will give us annually something like several thousand atomic bombs from 40 different countries when we get into the year 2000.
What happens to the waste products from the nuclear station?
The waste products are removed after cooling for a period of months in cooling tanks. They're then taken to a reprocessing station such as Le Hague in France or Windscale in England. The plutonium and reusable uranium is extracted, and this is then returned or kept at that site. But this raises a very important political issue, because plutonium can be made into bombs, and if we have plutonium in this country, under political direction, we could get into the atomic bomb business.
Is there more of a guarantee, in your opinion, about the supply of nuclear raw materials to Ireland than for other forms of energy?
Present estimates vary between 20 and 40 years as to the world's known supplies of uranium, which is essential to keep a reactor going. There is no difference between the oil shortage and uranium shortage. Equally, you have a dependence on an energy source that is not going to last very long.
In your opinion, what effect will such a plant have on the ecology?
Well, as I've mentioned, there is radiation. There is a body of scientific opinion that states that radiation can be dangerous. Leukemia rings have been found around a number of nuclear power stations operating in Germany and America, a higher incidence of cancer. if this is so, and then this is affecting the whole ecology, the balance, the biological material in the vicinity of those, including human beings in the vicinity of nuclear power stations.
Will it help to solve the unemployment problem?
No way. A nuclear power station will absorb such capital resources that very little will be left for industrial development. It has been found now that nuclear power, in a study done by the Union of Concerned Scientists, will effectively reduce the number of jobs by approximately 4,000.
Do we need nuclear power?
No.
Are there viable alternatives to it?
Certainly. We can save the energy we've got, make better use of it. We have coal in the world for the next 300 years, and then this will keep us moving along until we get into what's termed the soft energy path: wind, wave, solar energy. There's no problem.
Thank you, Dr. David Nolan from the Wexford Nuclear Safety Association. Dr. Ian McCauley is Professor of Physics in TCD. Same questions, Doctor. How much will a nuclear plant cost, your estimate?
My estimate at the moment is in terms of £1978, but we won't be quite sure until the ESB gets its tenders in, approximately £400 million.
For one?
For one.
And we need 4?
I don't believe we need 4. 1 is all at the moment.
In your opinion, will it work and will it be economic?
In my opinion, it will work. There are about 220 working nuclear power stations in the world at the moment. The first one went into operation in 1956 and is still working. The economics are that per unit of electricity, it costs about half as much to make from nuclear as from oil, and about 2/3 as much as it would cost to make a unit of electricity from coal.
What are the risks involved?
There are risks in anything we do. The risks in nuclear power are less than from any other way of generating electricity that is available to us.
What happens to the waste products from the nuclear station?
The waste products, as Mr. Nolan has said, are removed and processed. The waste after that is at the moment on a small scale being converted into a vitrified form, that is glassy material, which can then be stored in stable rock formations.
Would that be in Ireland?
That could be in Ireland.
And if it's not in Ireland, where?
At the moment, the the extreme members of the anti-nuclear movement are preventing an examination, even an examination of the more suitable sites.
Is there more of a guarantee about the supply of nuclear raw materials to Ireland than other forms of energy?
It's impossible to guarantee your supply of any material which has to come in from outside the country. However, there are more sources of uranium available in the world than there are of either coal or of oil. There are adequate stocks of uranium at the moment for some 60 to 70 years, and if you go down to lower grades, of which there are plenty, you can extend that by some hundreds of years.
What effect will such a plant have on the ecology?
As regards the radiation, I do not believe that there will be any detectable effect on the ecology. There will, however, be an outflow of warm water from the cooling of the plant, and this may have some temperature effect on the ecology. I would say that most other power plants, non-nuclear, will have a similar effect.
Will it help to solve the unemployment problem?
In the station itself, during construction, there would probably be about 1,000. This is not my field, so I'm guessing. During running of the station, we would probably have about 400 people permanently employed. The second part which must be considered in answering this question is how much employment it will provide in the country. If there is no supplies of reasonably priced electricity, we cannot have any industrial development. If we do not have industrial development, we will not have the jobs.
Do we need nuclear power?
I believe we need nuclear power. I believe that nuclear power is the safest and the best alternative that we have open to us at the moment.
Are there viable alternatives to a nuclear island?
There are 2 other options that you can pursue. The first is to use coal. There is, as Mr. Nolan has said, adequate supplies of coal. However, I would point out that a coal station of the same size as the proposed nuclear station emits more radioactivity than a nuclear power station. In addition, it emits sulfur dioxide and it emits carcinogens. It is far more dangerous to have coal-fired generating stations than nuclear.
That was Dr. Ian McCauley, Professor of Physics in TCD. Now,